Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Karen left her husband, now she really regrets it. I told her that she did this to herself. My daughter Gina, who's 38, left her husband, Dan, who's 40, for a younger and more exciting man from her work. They broke up when she got hit with a condo levy she asked him to help pay for since he was living with her. He declined since he wasn't on the deed. He said he didn't mind paying rent, but that maintenance was on the owner. They fought, and that was that. She ended up having to sell the condo. It was too expensive for her alone, but it was something she fought for in the divorce. That was 6 years ago, and she finally burned through the money from the sale. We told her to buy something smaller in a different neighborhood, but she insisted that she needed to live there so the kids wouldn't be disrupted. In the meantime, our son-in-law just remarried a lovely girl, Madison, who's about 28. Our grandkids love her, and she's always very pleasant when we speak. She's pregnant, and the kids are excited for a new sibling. My daughter is back living with us. All she does is work and complain. She has to work too much. She can't meet good men. This new woman stole her life. It never stops. My wife is always commiserating with her about how she is so hard done by. I just keep my mouth shut. Madison came by yesterday to pick up the kids. After she left, my daughter went off again. She was driving a new car they got since her old one would be impractical for a family of 5 to drive around in. The kids ran out to see it and check out all of the bells and whistles. Gina didn't even say hello. After Madison and the kids left, she started whining again. Now about how she can't afford a new car. I couldn't help it. I told her that she made her choices to give up her life she had for something different, and that choices have consequences. She literally ran crying to her room, and I felt like crap. Her mom scolded me for being so harsh. I apologized for saying what I said, and I honestly feel bad about it, but I think she needs to stop complaining about her life since she's the one that chose it. Not the jerk. Your daughter is 38 and is old enough to hear the truth. You don't need to use kids' gloves anymore with her. Well, what do you think? Was Dad too harsh with his daughter or not? Please let us know. Gee, maybe if you didn't run out on your family, you wouldn't be in this position. Laid off and replaced by 2 lazy, privileged waffles. I used to be in charge of the printer room in a rather large company. We shipped a ton of product every day, and everything shipped had to have the accompanying printed labels and documents. Nothing can even be loaded onto the trucks without this paperwork. Now, this was in the olden days of the 90s, so we had 7 massive 4-foot-tall dot matrix printers that did all of the work. These printers were temperamental jerks, and if the paper jammed, the printer did not automatically stop printing. It would just keep pushing and jamming more and more paper onto the machine until, if left untended, it would break down. Running the printer room was a 2-person job. When I started, I trained for 2 full weeks with the 2 current printer room employees. One was being promoted. I was replacing him. It was a rough 2 weeks, let me tell you, getting the hang of the job, the various things you had to learn and do, etc. One thing that made it even more complicated was the fact that each printer had its own personality with its own problems. Another was the fact that a problem in one printer could have a different fix than the exact same problem in another. The job would be quiet for 45 minutes straight, during which we did routine maintenance and such, but was really slow and quiet and restful. Because this company processed its shipping orders in batches once an hour. And then, boy, on the hour, every hour, the batch of orders would go through and thousands of orders would come spitting out. Now, if you were on top of things and kept everything running smoothly, the orders would print out very neatly and quickly. But if you didn't know what you were doing, if you didn't maintain things just right, you'd get a backup and things would go horrible very, very fast. And when one machine went down, you had to fix it fast before the next one jammed, because guaranteed those machines would jam up multiple times on every batch print job. So I've been working the print room for several months and things were great. Then my coworker gave his 2 weeks notice. We tried to train my replacement, but he was incredibly lazy and got himself fired a few days after the end of his training, which left me in the printer room alone. Then the bosses informed me that my position is being phased out and I'm going to be replaced by 2 employees transferred from a different department. So not only am I losing my job, but I have to train my replacements. And I desperately needed a good recommendation from this company, so I couldn't just quit or do a crappy job. I quickly learned that both of these transfers are lazy and useless. They'd been with the company for decades, had friends in the head office, and knew their jobs were safe. I'd show them how to do something, and they'd flat out laugh and say, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." Every day, I'd be trying to train them, and they would just ignore me, chat with each other, leave to go sit in the cafeteria, leaving me to do a 2-person job alone. Luckily, I was good enough to handle the workload, but it was annoying. Mindful of the fact that I needed a reference of this company, I kept extensive notes on each day's progress. I clearly documented every single instance of the replacements refusing to help, even listened to my instructions. I also followed up daily with my direct supervisor, and he knew what was going on. And my notes went into the company files and were passed up the line. Despite my scathing reports, head office did nothing. Now it's my last day. This is the day the training process assigned for letting the newbies work alone, with no help or supervision allowed, to see how well they handle the job and the pressure. I was, in writing, forbidden to help them or answer any questions. As I expected, things fell apart pretty much immediately. Minutes into the first batch of orders, one of the biggest printers jammed, and the clueless jerks had no idea how to fix the printer jam, because they ignored me every time I tried to show them how. So they turned to me and demand that I fix things. I'm sitting at a desk, coffee in one hand, an apple in the other. I just smile back and say, yeah, I'm not doing that. So one of them is yelling at me while the other is basically thumping uselessly on the printer like a gorilla that just found a candy machine. Then a second printer jams. Paper starts spilling out of the back of the first printer, which, if you knew the job, was a really, really bad warning sign. Well, I'm going to the cafeteria. Good luck, I say as I stand up. As I'm leaving, I hear a third printer break down and jam up. I went to my supervisor and let him know what was happening. He said he not only expected as much, he had predicted so repeatedly to his superiors. He once again specifically forbade me from offering any help, so I went to the cafeteria and read my book for a little over an hour. Then my supervisor comes to me to let me know what happened. The entire printer room is down. Every single printer either jammed up or is actually broken. The company is losing thousands of dollars every single minute. One of the shipper and receiving supervisors finds me, all in a panic, begging me to get the orders printed. Sorry, I'm not allowed to do that, I replied. Now several people are running around outside the cafeteria, all in a panic, running from place to place, trying to figure out why they don't have any shipping orders. The chaos took hours to resolve, and I wasn't allowed to fix the problems. Anytime someone started giving me a hard time, my supervisor would intervene and show the memo from the bosses stating that I was forbidden to help them in the printer room that day. I spent the entire last day at work drinking coffee, chatting with coworkers, and reading my book. The whole fiasco ended up costing the company tens of thousands of dollars. Am I the jerk for telling my family how much my fiance earns after years of them making fun of his job? My family is very well educated and full of professionals, including several doctors, surgeons, dentists, etc. I have a good career and I make a good living. When I met my fiance, he was at my house to supervise a roofing crew the insurance company hired to replace my damaged roof. I instantly fell for him when he pulled up in his truck and couldn't keep my eyes off him for the rest of the day as he gave orders to his men. When we started dating, he was vague about his job, and I just chalked it up to him being insecure about me having a better career. I didn't care about our income imbalance. When we got serious, we talked about our future plans, and that was when he told me the full extent of his little construction company. I was shocked that his construction earnings is as much as my dad's surgeon salary. Gradually, he took me around to the handful of construction lots and shopping centers he owns. His rental income, combined with his construction earnings, is double that of my dad's. He said that few people knew about this, his finances, and he expects me to keep what I know to myself. My parents disapproved of him since the first time I brought him home. My dad coined the term tool boy, and the rest of my family joined in whenever they talked about him behind his back. They don't call him that to his face, but instead just make snide remarks. Once my mom said during dinner that they're thinking about hiring someone to mow their lawn, then turned to my fiance and asked him what he charges. I always try to defend him, and it's a constant battle. It's gotten worse since we're planning our wedding, and the other day, my nerves just broke. Yesterday, my parents were trying to talk me into getting a prenuptial agreement. Then my dad said, "You have to protect your assets, just in case Tool Boy decides to go slumming." I lost it and yelled at my parents. During our shouting, I blurted out his earnings and that he makes more than both of them combined. Then I stormed out. I told my fiance what happened, but instead of supporting me, he got mad that I told my parents that. I argued that I was defending him, then we got into an argument too. My parents and family are mad at me for keeping secrets. My fiance is mad at me for not keeping secrets. I'm stuck in the middle, and I don't know what to do. Sounds like your husband likes to build relationships on foundations and merits outside of his finances. Meanwhile, your family looks down on anyone they deem lesser earners than themselves. I know whose corner I'd be in. Apologize to your husband and tell your family to buzz off. Sorry, but you're the jerk. There are plenty of other things you could have said to illustrate how horrible your family was being. You didn't have to throw out numbers. Now, if your family starts acting better, he'll always know that it's on the basis of his earnings and not his character. Edit. And husband will always know that your knee-jerk reaction was to be like, but he does make money, rather than, who cares what he makes me happy, he takes care of me. We're good partners with the same life goals. We love each other. Support that or shut up. Edit 2. Alright, I'll give OP some leeway, but I still think that there were better ways to go about it. We're perfectly compatible and happy with our mutual finances, which are none of your business. My boyfriend didn't want to pay $200 to save my life. I was at a bar with my boyfriend and his friends a while ago. We all had a great time, dancing on the tables, singing and drinking. I remember feeling totally fine one second, and the next I got very unsteady, and I lost connection with my body. I got confused and scared, but then just so calm. It was all types of weird. Most of what happened I can't even remember now. I became unconscious, and according to my boyfriend, the few times I opened my eyes, they looked very scared. He was told to get a taxi and to take me to the emergency room fast. He managed to get me into the taxi and it started to drive. My boyfriend told me that during the drive, the driver told him that he would have to pay $200 extra if I threw up. Then my boyfriend said, "Oh no," stopped the driver and wanted to walk to the emergency room. I was still unconscious and he didn't know why or if my life was at risk. Luckily for him, the police were driving around and they saw me laying on the ground. They asked him what's up and they drove us to the emergency room with blue lights on and fast. They took it very seriously, and without them, my boyfriend would have been lucky to even get me to the emergency room. Turns out, someone had put something in my drink that night. It got worse as he made me walk with shaky legs from the emergency room the day after. A walk that should have been 20 minutes took me 2 hours. Even started talking about the fact that maybe they put something in his drink too, even though he didn't feel weird at all that night. Then he started to talk about him paying the taxi $40 for the little drive and how much it was, like he wanted me to pay him back or something. He constantly stated that it was $40 and how sick that was. It's the normal price around here. He also ignored me once I said someone was following me. He was never scared of letting me walk around in town at night, but if a female friend did it, then he would have to follow and make sure she's safe. He argues, why am I scared, instead of trying to make me feel better or protecting me. Other than that, he's a kind man, but like, this cannot be normal. Is this relationship worth it? I'm scared I'm overreacting, but keep in mind that most of this is told from his perspective, as I don't even remember that night. Edit. I forgot to say that I asked him what he would have done differently if this happened today, and paying for the taxi was not on the list. Edit 2. I just have to say that he did call for an ambulance, but they didn't show up. According to him, it was one of the first things he did. But he told them I was conscious, and so they didn't feel the need to come. An ambulance is basically free here, meaning it would have saved him money. He would have no reason not to call. Some people also said that I should have paid him back for the taxi, and I agree based on the information I gave you. But I was the one that paid for drinks that night, and I spent a lot more than $40 on him. In total, I spent $176 to be exact. Edit 3. In a way, I wanted you guys to tell me that I was overreacting and that he really tried his best. Seeing that you also find this situation a little messed up makes me feel less crazy though. And yeah, I'll dump him. I think it will be the best for both of us. Let's put it this way. I've done more to help out a passed out stranger than your own boyfriend did to help you. My marriage is falling apart because of my changed lifestyle. I'm a 37-year-old woman. I've been married to my husband, who's 40, for 10 years. We have 2 kids together who are 7 and 4. I never had any issues in my marriage before. After my son was born, I went into deep depression. My life was not in the right track. I was stuck in a dead-end, low-paying job. I was handling my boy alone because my husband was working overtime to feed us. When my daughter came along, I made a decision to change myself. I used to drink a lot. Now I'm sober. I haven't touched a drink in 5 years. I've changed my diet and bad food habits. I go to the gym and I do yoga every morning. My sleep has improved a lot. My mood has improved drastically with just some changes. I do not get irritated easily or become helpless. I have also updated my resume and looked for a job that suits me. I make a decent amount of money now. I get compliments from people around me telling me I look great. I've lost a ton of weight too. I thought my husband would be happy, but he's not. He dislikes that I get compliments from people or when people compliment me in front of him. I didn't see it as a big issue. He used to joke about how people assume he's Adam Sandler who got the hot chick. I used to brush it off as a joke. Then I discovered he was cheating on me with a coffee shop waitress. I don't think her job title matters, but that girl doesn't seem nice to me. I've looked through some of the chats of her and my husband, and she called me an old hag trying to fit in with the young. She lives with her parents and is a high school dropout. She's only 22 years old. I'm devastated. I thought my husband would be happy, but this affair has been going on for 7 months. Despite me working more hours now, I still do all of my wifely duties. I cook for him, make him his lunch for the office, I initiate love and intimacy. Now here I am getting a divorce from him. When I confronted him about the affair, he told me being with me is always overbearing. He feels invisible because most people give me attention, and somehow it's my fault. I was obsessed with myself rather than noticing how this is making him feel. He feels small because he's been stuck in the same place 5 years ago. I just don't get it. I never pushed him to follow my lead. I also told him that I loved him no matter what. Why is this happening? I don't want my kids to grow up in a broken family, but I cannot live with him after what he has said and done. I know he's being insecure, but he didn't have to hurt me like this. I know as a single mom it's tough to survive. People have warned me that my husband could act differently towards me. They were right. I wish it didn't end like this. Update. I'm doing fine. Yes, there's still pain, but things are moving smoothly. I did get my son and daughter to therapy. My son knows why we are divorcing. He gets angry sometimes and throws a fit. My daughter is too young to understand anything. I just want to know how I can handle this. How can I make my son see that none of this is his fault, but his father's? I do not want to keep anything a secret from my kids because I believe the relationship between a couple affects the kids too. I do want him to have a good relationship with his dad, but I do not want him to take a bad lesson from this. The other day I was watching the movie Family That Prays. I know this is silly, but I had this fear inside me that what if my son blames me for the divorce, like Andrea blamed her mother because her father left? What if he turns out just like his own father? I can't control everything that goes inside his head. I try my best to be there for my son, but the constant fear of losing him is still there. My father came to visit me. He lives in a different city. He only knew half the truth. After knowing the full truth, he was very angry. When my ex-husband came to visit our kids, my dad and him got into a huge fight. My dad used to be in the army, so my ex-husband is terrified of him. He threatened to call the police, but my dad shouted, "I'm not afraid of a cockroach like you." I told my dad not to make things more complicated than they already are. I'm trying my best to keep my daily routine. Sleeping has been tough, but I do not want to depend on pills. On the bright side, I have a lot of free time on my hands. I realize that half of my chores have been reduced. I know kids are messy, but there is a huge relief. I do not have to clean crumbs off the table or have rings of water droplets on the coffee table, which annoys me a lot. Things stay in their place. I started to notice my husband was the one who made half of the mess and I was the one who cleaned it. Last week, I went to the theater with my son and daughter to watch Barbie. We were accompanied by my friend, who's also a single mom of 2. I wore a costume and we had a lot of fun. I'm still trying my best to stay afloat, and I'm not thinking about dating. I do not have the urge to date at the moment. I did get hit on in a few places, but nothing exciting. I'll see you guys later. Fired from Walgreens I never worked at. So this was some 10 years ago, and while the conversation is paraphrased, I remember it like it was yesterday. Background. At the time, I was working grave and swing as a casino player's host in Reno. For those who don't know what this job is, we take care of the high rollers, make sure they get comps, dining and hotel reservations, get invites to tournaments, limo rides, you name it. I wore a nice black blazer with a name tag, slacks, comfortable but professional shoes, hair and makeup done. The days I worked swing, I was off at 3 a.m., but after waiting for bus and the ride home, I would make it to my place at about 5 a.m. Directly across the street from my home was a Walgreens. I stopped in a lot of mornings to grab a protein shake, pick up prescriptions, etc. But on Wednesday mornings, they put out a lot of clearance items. You could snag small appliances dirt cheap, so I was always there on Wednesdays stocking up on Christmas and birthday presents, etc. The employees and manager knew me by sight, and some knew me by name. I was usually a zombie after work, I think like most people are. And this Wednesday was no different. I was looking over the latest selection, trying to decide if I needed a new coffee maker or just wanted one because it was clearanced for $5. A woman was next to me, speaking Tagalog into her phone. I don't speak it, but Reno has a pretty large Filipino community, so I could at least recognize it. Her language is not important to the story. It just struck me how odd the little things we remember are. She finished her conversation and looked at me. "Can I get a discount on this?" I don't remember what the item was, some small appliance. "The box is smashed up." "No idea," I told her. But I would ask to plug it in to test it before I bought it if the box is damaged. I have no idea if anyone can actually do that, but it seemed reasonable to me. Why would you sell something that doesn't work? She demanded. I had no idea at this point that she thought I worked there. I thought she was making conversation. In my defense, I was half asleep and just wanted a good deal on a darn stick blender. Oh, I told her, I absolutely wouldn't sell it, but I'm not in the business of selling things anyway. Oh, so you are too good and important to sell things. That is just for the low employees? I finally looked at her. Until then, I was pretty focused on staying awake. I could see she was getting angry. It dawned on me that I still had my name tag on. I slipped it off. They're the kinds with magnets, not pins, and stuck it in my pocket. Oh, sorry, I forgot to take this off. I don't actually… I started to say that I didn't work there, but she was having none of it. Oh, you think you are too good to help me? Just because of who I am? My money is too good for you? She said something in Tagalog that did not sound flattering. You think you can trick me taking off your name tag? I just sighed. I don't want your money. I don't work here. I'm shopping. Please leave me alone. She ignored everything that I just said except for, oh, you won't be getting my money because you need to give me this for free for not helping me. Ma'am, I tried to reason with her. I can't give you that. I really don't work here. If you take it without paying, that's stealing. Oh, now you think I'm poor and a thief? What? Where did this come from? I want to talk to the manager of the store. Lady, I turned back to the shelf. I wish you would talk to anyone but me. She stomped off, her heels making a tick-tick sound on the linoleum. I decided I did need another coffee maker and that stick blender. As I was putting both in my cart, I hear the tick of her shoes. Great, she's back. But she's not alone. Tom, the store manager, was with her. There she is, the woman who called me a poor thief. I want you to fire her and make her the poor one. Weird obsession with poverty. Tom looked at me confused. What's going on here? I grinned and held up my coffee maker. Just shopping. Tom was even more confused. But why are you insulting her? She thinks I work here and wants me to help her steal an appliance. Okay, I know it's a bit of an exaggeration, but she's the one who started it. This was the moment that her medication stopped working. In a very loud mix of English and Tagalog, she shrieked out our entire interaction. Surprisingly, she told it correctly too, except that I didn't put my name tag away to trick her. Tom was done at this point. He just looked at me and said, "You're fired." The woman grinned maliciously at me, grabbed her smashed up box and stormed off with Tom as I shrugged and made my way over to the allergy medications. At the register, Tom asked me what really happened. I told him everything, including how I told her I wished that she'd talk to anyone but me. Tom laughed and told me that I was still fired. Yay, I grinned. Do I get a severance package? Tom laughed harder. To be fair, you did lose it on her. Plus, you don't actually work here. So no severance package. That's it. I shopped there for many years before I moved. I never saw her again, so I'm sure she went on content with getting me fired and making me poor. Am I the jerk for getting angry because my boyfriend ate my food? I'm a stay-at-home mom. I do all of the cooking, cleaning, and anything kid-related. We're a family of 5. I make sure dinner is served before my boyfriend comes home at 5, because I know that he's always starving from working hard and providing for our family. So when it comes to dinner, I'm always the last to eat. After serving everyone and making sure everyone has their juice and whatever else they need, as a result, I'm usually the last to sit and enjoy my meal. Well, this day was no different. I made Chinese food, fried rice, orange chicken, walnut prawns, and my all-time favorite, egg rolls. I served everyone. I took meds to settle my stomach and sat down to wait for them to work. I made my boyfriend's plate stacked with rice and plenty of egg rolls. When he got his plate, he immediately asked if there was enough for seconds. I explained to him that I hadn't eaten yet and that there may be some leftovers after I served myself up a plate. There wasn't much left. There was a spoonful of rice left and extra egg rolls. I made extra because they're my favorite. I sat down on the couch and conversed with my boyfriend about his day. I watched as he polished off his food. He got up to take his plate to the kitchen, came back chewing. I didn't think anything of it. He tends to eat the scraps off our kids' plates, so I thought nothing of it. He got up a few more times, still munching, and came back with a beverage. Again, I haven't eaten because I'm waiting for my meds to kick in. 20 minutes passed at this point, and my stomach is ready for the food I just spent hours making. I go in the kitchen, and all of my egg rolls are gone. I was immediately upset. I told him I hadn't eaten yet, told him not to touch the food until after I ate. When I confronted him, he said, "Eat one off the kid's plate." I cooked and served everyone, and this is how I'm treated? He then offered to make me more, and I declined, as these are not store-bought, ready-made egg rolls. These are from scratch, rolled up, and then fried egg rolls. So no, he couldn't make me more. To make a long story short, I didn't eat. I was upset and I went to bed hungry. No apology or anything. Am I the jerk for still being angry 2 days later? I've also boycotted cooking and anything related to my stay-at-home mom duties. Not the jerk. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he prioritized his greed over your need. Not okay under any circumstances. That was disgusting. He showed you who he truly values, and it's not you. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that she is smart and hardworking, but not gifted? My wife and I both have electrical engineering degrees, but I no longer work in the field, and I'm a manager now. We have a daughter who's 15 and a son who's 17, and both will be headed to university next month. My son is doing a BA and has not yet picked his major, and my daughter will be studying physics and computer science. My son is also very smart and is a history and language nerd. My daughter is smart and hardworking and is attending at an earlier age than usual. She was in a school program for gifted kids. We were having a conversation at dinner the other day, and my wife mentioned how proud she was of our daughter and how lucky we were to have gifted kids going to a good university program, and how not many people can do what our daughter did. I was also very happy, but I said that while daughter is very hardworking and smart, I would not say that she is actually gifted, and others can do it if they put in the same amount of work. Her school does a lot to try to admit girls into her program, and my wife helped teach her advanced college-level math and physics from an earlier age. She didn't naturally pick it up on her own. If anything, being a younger applicant with the same credentials probably helped her stand out more for the admissions committee. I have seen how people can ruin their lives over thinking they are gifted and it go into their heads, so I just wanted to caution her about that. Both my wife and daughter are upset at me now. My wife thinks I was trying to put her down, which is not true, and says that she is gifted, while my daughter actually agrees with me, but says I should not have said it as she already knows it. Am I the jerk here? It might not come across in the post, but I am genuinely proud and happy for my kids, and beyond what I described here, there was a lot of complimenting and celebration on my part. You're the jerk. Putting your daughter down served no positive purpose. Discouraging a young teen like that can have serious detrimental effects. Even if she isn't actually gifted, you were the jerk. That being said, she is gifted. Not every 15-year-old can go to a university to study physics. Not only is she gifted academically, she's gifted with drive and determination. Not everyone has that, and you tried to put her down. Well, what do you think? Is Dad a jerk for saying his daughter's not gifted or not? Please let us know. She sounds pretty gifted to me. What's wrong with you, Daddy-o? No calls and I can't leave the floor? Okay. This story harkens back to ye olden days when Blockbuster and Hollywood Video were the things to do on a family-friendly Friday, and cell phones were still something most people didn't really consider necessary, aka the 90s. I took a job at a video store near my house. It was a small, family-owned store with 3 different branches in town. The job was wonderful. I loved movies and games. It was close to my residence and school. I even got free video rentals and a discount from the sub shop next door. The video store was located in a beautiful old building from the 1920s. It had marble stairs and a really amazing cage elevator that led up to the storage and employee lounge. The job was perfect for me. The hours were flexible, the pay was decent, but the only one drawback was that my supervisor, let's call her Amanda because that was her name. Seriously, forget Amanda. Amanda was on the older side and seemed to not be content with how her life had turned out. As a result, she took all of her frustrations out on anyone she could, especially those people who she worked with who happened to be younger. If you were a college student like myself, you earned a special extra helping of disdain from her. I mean, really, how dare you decide to actually have aspirations of making more than $7.50 an hour? While I'm generally fairly tolerant of people like Amanda, she really went the extra mile to annoy me as much as humanly possible. She was bitter, mean, petty, and did anything and everything she could to just be plain unpleasant. She wasn't even nice to customers. The only upside to this attitude was that she didn't let Karen customers get away with their Karenness. I might have been able to take more if she happened to be particularly knowledgeable or good at her job. She was neither and only appeared to have the job because of good old nepotism. She was the daughter-in-law of the owner. She knew nothing about movies or games or gaming systems or anything we rented or sold. When a customer had a question, she would pawn them off on another employee. When she had a problem with the computers, who did she call to fix it? Me. When there was a delivery that needed to be checked into the system, who did she call? Me. When stock needed to be dragged up to the stockroom, that's me again. Any unpleasant task that came up, she would always try to give it to me. Generally, she hid in the back watching TV or talking on the phone, which did tie up the store's landline for literally hours, or doing anything and everything she could to avoid doing her actual job. When I brought up Amanda to Ken, the owner, he simply sighed and gave me a pained look and asked me to just try to bear with it and to stay out of her way if I could. I got the distinct impression that Ken didn't much care for her either, but she was his daughter-in-law. He did try his best to try to make sure I wasn't scheduled to work with her, but at least once a week I had to work with this paragon of kindness and light. One day I was on the phone with a customer discussing the late fees on their account when Amanda wanted to make a call. This resulted in Amanda ripping me a new one in front of an entire store of people. It was on a Saturday and we were packed to the rafters. She was yelling so loudly that the woman on the phone asked me if we were being robbed and whether she should call the police. Before I could answer, Amanda yanked the phone out of my hand and slammed it into the cradle. "You are never, ever to be on that phone. You understand me?" While I was desperately aching to headbutt her, I bit my tongue, took a deep breath, counted to 10. When that didn't work, I counted to 20, then 50. Instead of telling her that I hoped rabid wolverines would get her, I simply smiled and said, "All right." This seemed to annoy her even more than if I'd gotten angry. She stormed back to the office and I took a stream of customers, all of whom asked me if I was okay, and one offered suggestions on how to get rid of her. I appreciated the suggestions, but I had plenty of my own ideas. I checked it off in my big book of voodoo curses and hoped I would have a chance to pay Amanda back for her thoughtful gesture of embarrassing me in front of half of the metropolitan area. Still, there were a few more pieces to be laid out for my malicious compliance, and Amanda wouldn't disappoint me. The next piece came, perhaps a month later. I had been at work for about 7 hours of my 9-hour shift and had only seen Amanda once, and that had been when she left the store. Considering I only had 2 hours left of my shift and hadn't yet taken a break, I really needed to go to the bathroom. I told my coworker I was heading to the restroom. This was, however, apparently not in keeping with Amanda's view for the universe. She actually began to bang and kick the bathroom door, demanding I come out. I took my time, washed my hands, adjusted my hair, and calmly walked out of the bathroom. While she began to scream, I ignored her and walked up to the front of the store and took the cart of movies to be reshelved. She grabbed the front of the cart and swiped the movies off the top. She then informed me of my questionable parentage and started calling me names. Amanda told me that under no uncertain terms was I to ever leave the floor while I was on the clock. Again, I summoned an inner calm that would have made Gandhi proud. I forced a smile and nodded. All right. While I seemed calm on the outside, I had made up my mind that I would have my chance. No matter how small, I would have my moment. That shining moment came on a lazy and blissfully quiet morning. As it was a morning, it would just be me and Amanda. Hopefully she would stay in the office and I wouldn't have to deal with her at all. When I came in, there were workmen in the back working on the elevator. One of the guys came up and told me that he needed a part and he would be back tomorrow to finish up the work. Annoying, as I would now have to take armfuls of heavy tapes up the stairs, but it wasn't the end of the world. The light of my life arrived a few hours later without a word to anyone. I stood at the front putting "Be Kind, Rewind" stickers on a batch of new arrivals when I noticed Amanda through the back door getting into the elevator. After the man told me that he needed a part, it didn't even occur to me that the elevator had the power on, and I had a moment of amusement at thinking that Amanda was going to have to take the hated stairs. She was, above all, lazy. However, it seemed the elevator did indeed have power and it worked. At least it worked just enough to go up half of a floor and then stop. It was just close enough to the upper floor that climbing out onto that floor was impossible, and just far enough from the lower floor that climbing out was impossible. I couldn't believe my eyes. Malicious compliance activated. I couldn't entirely see Amanda as she tried to open the door and get out, but I could hear her. The sounds of frustration increased until I heard the most beautiful sound I ever heard. Amanda. "OP!" A slow smile, reminiscent of the Grinch, curved my lips. I walked to the very edge of the sales floor and called out, "Yes?" Amanda. "The elevator is stuck. Can you open the door from your side?" Me. "I don't know. I can't see it from here." She huffed in annoyance. "Well, get over here and try to open it." "I can't do that, Amanda."
Why not?
Me. I'm not allowed to leave the floor while I'm on the clock under any circumstances.
Are you kidding me?
You said it yourself. Since I value my job, I can't possibly go against orders.
Call maintenance. The number should be in the office.
Trying to sound as innocent and sympathetic as I could possibly manage, while also trying not to burst out laughing, I can't do that either. I'd have to leave the floor to go to the office.
You think you're real funny, don't you?
I don't know what you mean.
Call Ken then. I know you know his number.
Well, I would, but I'm not allowed to use the phone, remember? Amazingly, she stopped. There was not even one word telling me that my parents were never married. It was silent. I think for the first time she realized that she might actually be in a little trouble. She was stuck in a position entirely of her own making, with no way out of it for the foreseeable future. Amanda.
OP, please, just get me out of here.
I'm sorry, Amanda. I'm just following orders. All pretense and niceness was dropped as she proceeded to inform me of all of my imagined faults and those of my parents, friends, and any other relations I might have or think to have in the future. Then she sealed her fate. She yelled at me that I was fired. In truth, I really only planned on letting her stew for a few minutes, but after that, nah. Me. I'm fired? Okay, then I guess I'll head home. Oh, I should also let you know that Bill called and said he'd be in at 7 instead of 5. He has to pick up his brother from the airport. So, I guess you'll be there for a while. I hope you've got a good book or something. Amanda.
What? You jerk. You think you can do this to me? When I get out of here, I'm going to get you.
Me. Wow, okay, yeah, have fun with that. Have a good one. I'll leave my name tag and shirt on the front desk.
Wait!
Bye.
Wait!
Me. Don't worry, I'll lock up on my way out and I'll put up a sign so people will know we're closed.
OP, wait, I didn't mean it. Come back.
I walked up front, wrote out a sign that we're closed until 7 p.m. due to unforeseen circumstances. The very last thing I heard from Amanda before I opened the doors was,
"But I have to go to the bathroom."
Still snickering to myself, I locked the door and drove the 45 minutes out to Ken's house to let him know the shop was closed. Could I have gone the 5 minutes to my house and called? Sure I could. Did I? Nope. Ken seemed a bit surprised to see me there. Ken, I thought you were working today. Me. Oh, I was, but Amanda fired me. Ken, she's not allowed to do that. All hiring and firing goes through me. She knows that. Don't worry, I'll call her. I think maybe it's time to talk to my son about her. I can't keep her on with her acting like this. Me. I don't think she'll be able to answer the phone. Ken gave me a long, sharp look as I tried very hard not to smile. Then I gave up entirely and just smiled broadly back at him. Ken. OP? Me. Yes? What did you do? Me. I didn't do anything. I only followed her orders. Ken leaned down to me eye to eye. What happened? I gave him the full tale from her telling me that I couldn't use the phone under any circumstances to her telling me that I wasn't allowed to leave the sales floor when I was on the clock. Then I told him about her being stuck in the elevator. You didn't tell her the elevator was broken? I didn't even realize it had power. Ken just stood there looking at me gobsmacked and then started laughing. I should really go let her out. He paused for a minute and looked down at his dirty hands and clothes, then up at me. But I really shouldn't leave these flowers half planted, and then I should probably take a shower. I don't want to make that drive covered in dirt. Me. Oh, of course not. You've got a really nice car, and it would be a lot of work to get that mulch dirt out of your seats and carpet. Do you need some help with the planting? Ken nodded back at me and gave another chuckle. It took probably another hour to finish planting the flowers. Ken told me I'd be paid for the day and sent me home with assurances that I did indeed still have a job and that he would deal with Amanda. I fully enjoyed the rest of my half-day off. I did hear from Bill that when he got there, the elevator repair guy had just arrived and that Amanda ended up spending about 5 hours stuck in the elevator. After that day, I only saw her one more time. She glared daggers at me as I waved happily to her as she carried a bag of her things out to her car. Whenever I think about it, I still get a little smile on my face. Besides, I only did what she told me to. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.